The Singularity of Fate. That is the title owned by Boruto and Kashin Koji to demand every human being into a better future. So far, we have assumed that the Flying Thunder God technique, or we can also call it the Flying Raijin Jutsu, is a jutsu taught by Sasuke or Koji. But in fact, Boruto, whose original intention was only to try to master and control the ability of the space-time ninjutsu technique, instead developed the same technique as Minato. Exactly. Hiraishin no Jutsu. Koji's vision that Boruto will master the ability in a few years, the fact is that Boruto has obtained it in just a few minutes. Finally, Koji's Kashin identity was revealed by Shikamaru, and now he has allied himself with Shikamaru and also Ada. Ryu and Matsuri, who are currently in the Land of Sand, they found a toad, and this will provide a clue about Boruto. But before that, will they win against the Ninja Suna and also Konoha? Welcome to Chapter 16 of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. Literally, part of this official chapter has a different meaning from yesterday's leak, and now we will review it. But before that, help me get 100 likes. Thanks, guys. The story begins with Ida as the cover in Chapter 16 with the title The Singularity of Fate. The narrator also adds an important sentence for this chapter. Love looks not with the mind, but with the eyes. And this is very suitable to represent this chapter, which is full of love triangles between Sumire, Sarada, and Boruto. At the beginning, the narrator says that this part is a flashback to when Boruto met Koji in the Land of Wind. The secret of Boruto's Hiraishin technique finally revealed. And next, in that scene, Kashin Koji first explained the time and space ninjutsu, a jutsu that is able to instantly transport the user or other people anywhere. And it is also the same as the ability to fly, which is part of the basic abilities that Otsutsuki has. Literally, Boruto in the past did manifest that ability many times. However, it only happened accidentally under limited circumstances and also could not be controlled or done intentionally. However, within 6 years, Boruto managed to master that ability. By marking metal objects such as kunai and other ninja tools with Boruto's chakra that allows him to sense them, Boruto developed a ninjutsu technique that allows him to move freely instantly wherever he wants. And that is the mechanism of the Hiraishin no Jutsu technique, or we can also call it Flying Raijin Jutsu. And the abilities that Boruto has mastered, Kashin Koji mentioned that the jutsu Boruto named it after a similar favorite jutsu used by his grandfather, Namikaze Minato. However, they are actually different jutsu, and Boruto actually doesn't know the real Flying Raijin Jutsu. And literally, when Boruto tries to control the space-time ninjutsu, Boruto devises his own Flying Raijin copycat that produces nearly the same results. And in conclusion, Boruto can be said to be a genius ninja. But being labeled as a genius ninja, honestly, with that expectation, Boruto even felt pressured. And after Boruto practiced hard and trials and errors many times, Boruto finally came to the conclusion and optimal solution that metal objects are the most suitable for marking chakras. And speaking of metal, Boruto asked Koji if that included this blade too. And of course, blades, shuriken, and even decorations and utensils, if they are made of metal, then anything can be used as a suitable medium to mark a chakra. Also, if the metal object is still within Boruto's visual range, translocation can be easily and accurately performed. But regarding the matter of the far visual range, Boruto concluded that it would be a difficulty to teleport. But literally, it was not a problem. Because as long as Boruto could sense and detect the chakra of each metal object, he could still translocate. But in this case, the problem is to accurately determine the place where Boruto will arrive. Boruto has no clue of every metal object that exists in each location, whether it is in the north or south. If it's just one object, it won't be a problem. But otherwise, this jutsu is not maximized because the location where Boruto will arrive, it becomes inaccurate because of the metal object that is more than one. And that means the full advantage of the jutsu's potential is wasted. But with his genius, Boruto came up with an idea to use the various metal object symbols as a medium for translocation. And with the various symbols that Boruto uses, he can imagine where he will travel accurately just by imagining a symbol as the location point he will arrive at. Even with a long distance, it will not be a problem, and he will arrive at the location point he specified. However, the farther the distance is, the greater the concentration is necessary. And the big plot twist is, all the theories that Kashin Koji said were explanations of Boruto's techniques that he learned himself. With various trial and error, he really mastered the technique perfectly. And even though Kashin Koji said that the technique would be mastered by Boruto in 6 years, the fact is that Boruto mastered the technique in just a few minutes. And of course, Kashin Koji only explained the mechanism of the technique in detail. Damn, my young lord is a genius. Although, ironically, Boruto was able to master it without understanding in detail about the mechanics of the technique, and therefore Koji explained it in theory. But in essence, Koji ordered Boruto to continue practicing and study an extraordinary amount. And in that instant, Boruto said that it didn't matter, and he resumed his training. I want to say this once again. The jutsu that I originally thought was an ability inherited by Sasuke or Koji, but in fact, Boruto mastered the same technique as his grandfather without a sensei. And thanks to trial and error made several times, he really mastered the technique perfectly. By the way, I want to ask you guys, does this fact mean that he is more genius than his grandfather and father? I want to hear your opinion, guys. And a flashback behind the flashback. We again see the scene where Boruto is at the Orochimaru relic base with Koji. And perhaps this part isn't much different from yesterday's spoilers, because essentially, as a singularity of fate, Boruto and Kashin Koji have an important duty to aid people in moving toward a better future from behind the shadows. Because if everyone is told the future that will happen, it will destabilize fate and also Jippo's ability to predict something that happens in the future. And regarding the matter of the singularity of fate and others, Koji also knew that sooner or later, Ida would find out all this information. And coming to the conclusion, in the present it was evident that Ida had known everything about the information she had seen in the past about everything Koji had said. Yep, this moment where they sit together is a continuation after Sarada and Sumire ask the results of Boruto's previous interrogation to Shikamaru. And when Ida sees the past of Boruto and Koji, she tells Sarada if this is the reason why, during the interrogation, Boruto doesn't talk much. And of course, it's not without reason, but there is a reason that cannot be said. And behind it all, Boruto is actually just preventing and doesn't want anything bad to happen to Sarada and Sumire. Even with what Ada said, Sarada feels that it's not fair to Boruto because he's taking it all on himself. Because basically, that fact doesn't change Konoha's perspective on Boruto, even though their enemies are the same. And if that's the case, Sarada intends to help Boruto. But when Sarada asked Ada where Boruto's location was now, Sumire cut off the question. And in this position, I think either Sumire or Sarada is not wrong. They both have the same perspective, but just different ways. Sumire really appreciates Boruto's decision not to reveal all the information. Because besides Boruto not wanting to make fate complicated because everyone knows about the future, Boruto also doesn't want Konoha to be in danger, especially his friends. But behind Sumire's thoughts, Sarada is actually very worried about Boruto's situation, who has to bear it all alone. With an enemy that could be considered quite strong, Sarada was worried that Boruto's life might be in danger. Because if Boruto were to face opponents like them alone, it would obviously not be a good choice and would seem reckless. Therefore, Sarada wanted to help Boruto. But because of that too, Sumire became worried that it was also because of their presence being there. That is to say, Boruto could have died or been injured because he was fighting against Shinju while protecting the two of them. Which of course, their abilities and powers would become annoying and troublesome for Boruto. And from this conclusion, Sarada's decision is not bad. But if we think rationally, I would definitely agree with Sumire. Because, once again, Sumire's decision seems more about respecting Boruto's choices rather than forcing herself to follow her desires like Sarada, which could also lead to greater risks. And if you were Boruto, whose decision would you prefer, Sarada or Sumire? Oh yeah. Even with all that Sarada wants to help Boruto, Sumire says something that might make sense. You might want to try putting yourself in Boruto's shoes. Do you really think he likes having to keep things from us? Has there been even a moment when you've reflected on his pain? But behind Sumire's words, she said about her feelings. Sarada knew that Sumire liked a lot of Boruto. But even though Sarada knew that Sumire really liked Boruto, Sumire was very disappointed and her feelings were very hurt when Sarada jumped into his arms. And that was the moment in Chapter 6 when Boruto came to Konoha. Even with that fact, Sarada truly found herself at a loss for words, unable to respond or deny anything to Sumire. In that moment, Sumire genuinely tried to understand and respect Sarada's feelings as she hugged Boruto right in front of her. But even though Sumire accepted it, She asked Sarada, "When you hugged Boruto, did you think about my feelings? Even just a little bit?" And this was the moment when, for the first time, Sumire became emotionally explosive and out of control. And honestly, this could have been a problem for them. Because you have to understand that right now they are with Ada. Ada is a person who is able to make people fall under her charm. Whether female or male, of course that person will stay under her charm if they are by her side. And if Sumire does that in front of Ida, it could be that Ida will start to understand and know that Sarada or Sumire is not affected by her ability. And yep, in this awkward situation, Ida also felt the situation becoming tense. In the end, Sumire apologized for saying this and she ran away from them. However, hearing Sarada, who kept referring to Sumire as the class rep, Sumire firmly rejected that title because she didn't like it at all. And a few minutes later, after this awkward situation, we heard something from Shikamaru who wanted to talk to Ida. But before that, there's another scene involving the daimyo and some Konoha elders. In conclusion, the daimyo has learned that Boruto has been in Konoha several times. But why did Konoha let Boruto escape when they had the chance to detain him? The daimyo even ordered the Konoha elders to recapture Boruto and snuff him out quickly. And if they fail, those responsible will face serious consequences. Okay, old man. Who do you think is capable of capturing Boruto? So we're back to Shikamaru currently with Ida. Honestly, Shikamaru would rather not meet with Ida. Literally, this would make Shikamaru's mind a mess. And yep, maybe I'll just say the important stuff in this part, guys. Shikamaru's first purpose of meeting with Ida was to ask how the situation in the Sand Village was. And of course, this was just as Shikamaru predicted. There's a new divine tree human, Ryu. That's the new Shinju's name. And Ryu's target is his father, Kazekage Gaara. Because before Shinki became a tree, he sealed Gaara. Gaara's current situation is still safe, and that's of course because of his jutsu. And the plot twist is that what Ada saw was a few hours ago and not in real time. So Ida can't know what happened to Ryu and the others in real time. Ida not wanting to see them in real time is not without reason, because one of them, Mamushi, could actually see Ida when she used her Senrigan eyes to spy on them. More precisely, for the time being onwards, Ida stopped watching what happened to Shinju, because once again, if Ida saw them in real time, Mamushi seemed to be looking into her eyes, and therefore Ida could only see things that had already passed some time before. And because she felt her blood run cold, she was afraid and didn't even know what he might do if she kept watching. And besides that, Ida also said something about Boruto. Ida knew that it was Shikamaru who helped Boruto escape by using Mitsuki. But even so, Ida kept this secret from Konoha, because of course, if Shikamaru's position was threatened, then it would not be an advantage for Ida. And at an important point, when Shikamaru began to realize about Boruto's ally Kashin Koji, he surprisingly showed himself as a frog who was behind Ada's hair. And without further ado, and also without question, Koji ordered Shikamaru, if Sarada, Konohamaru, and also Mitsuki to deploy to the Land of Wind. Because, in essence, the Ryu or Matsuri will be there. Besides that, especially Himawari should not get out of Konoha. With the condition that is currently being targeted by Jura, it will cause his attention, and as a result, Himawari will die. Because even though Jura is after Himawari, Jura won't do anything bad if Himawari is in Konoha, because even as a villain, Jura considers the cultural values that exist in Konoha. And for example, if Jura is in the village to visit the bookstore, Koji instructs Shikamaru to treat him as an ordinary customer. And even though this sounds like a joke, Koji says that this is very serious. Treating Jura kindly and not provoking his anger while in the village was the right decision, because if he gets really angry, there's no chance that they can win. To avoid Jura intervening, we'll hit the others with the minimum force required, and if Jura shows up, retreat immediately. And that is the best advice Koji said to avoid anything bad to Konoha, especially Himawari. And the last sentence Koji said was to thank Shikamaru for following his heart to help Boruto escape. So, on the other hand, Sumire looked sad and seemed to regret why she said such a thing, because maybe as an assumption this will cause suspicion to Ida in the future. But once again, this is just an assumption. So what do you think, guys? And it's time we see Sarada with a tie too. That is so beautiful. She has been in the Land of Winds with Konomaru and Mitsuki. Sarada, who had been in an uncomfortable situation earlier, started to look uneasy with a blank expression on her face. When Mitsuki asked if something was wrong, Sarada lied and said she was fine. And at the same time, we see Araya and Yodo on the hill waiting for them. And from the hill, Araya and Yodo welcome them and appreciate Konoha's help. And as it turns out, even though we didn't see the exact coordinates of where the Shinji would arrive, Koji had given an accurate point of where the Ryu and Matsuri would arrive. And that was proven by Konohamaru saying that it was from the Hokage's intel. And after they monitored the evidence with a telescope, they finally found the Divine Tree People. Ryu and Matsuri were there staring at a toad lying down. Whether dead or not, what is certain is that the toad is just lying on its back. Because if it is said to be dead, the toad is not real, Koji who created it. But if it's a real toad, are there toads in the land of sand? And until the end of chapter 16, Matsuri and Ryu find a clue if it will lead to Boruto. The narrator adds in the final sentence that the shinobi of Suna and Konoha will come forward to challenge two divine tree people with unexpected abilities. Chapter 16, Boruto 2 Blue Vortex ends. So far, we find a lot of things that are different from yesterday's leaks. And with this fact, will in chapter 17, Jura come back to Konoha to visit the bookstore? And of course, will in chapter 17, when Konoha and Suna fight against Ryu and Matsuri, Boruto will help them? Very interesting to look forward to. Thanks to all of you who have supported this channel. I'm Nim, likes and subs. See you in the next video.